Pimped.
Listen.
Gotta put that on
Shout out to House of Jane. This guy over here. They have so many amazing products. Go check it out, houseofjane.com.
Listen, I'm going to check out the coffee. I heard you talking about it earlier.
It's a wonderful CBD coffee. It's amazing.
Okay. And it's not like the get you high type of coffee. Because I can use some of that coffee too. Especially during this time.
No.
Anyway, I know some of y'all like, well, why they so special on today? What's so special about today's guest?
That's hilarious.
Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, listen, this guy's been around for some years now. I actually got the opportunity to talk to him on the phone. Now I get the chance to sit down with him face to face and talk. But so that we can get all that out the way, again, I'm Archie Lee. This is Miss Amanda. And go ahead, tell them who you are and where you come from and what you about.
My name is Simmie Ty Thiam. I'm an astrologer, a philosopher, father, husband.
Oh, your husband, girl.
All of it.
Shout out to my baby in the back.
You don't get it.
First of all,
sorry, my bad.
I just want to let y'all know I'm walking out the
I can do
building
that.
because this dude's voice is something different.
We got to turn his mic up.
Like,
Is the mic
compared when
It's
we
okay.
get,
I'm
me
just
and
letting
him
you know
talking,
because when you, yeah.
you close your eyes, you gonna know who talking because you gonna be like, oh, I want the other dude to shut up and let.
That's why she married him, so he could just talk in her ear at night.
He sweet talked me on the phone one time. Like, yeah, you know, the old school talk. You sleep? No, I'm not sleep. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Simmie T, man. Again, known him for a couple of years now. Talked to him a couple of times in passing. Never had the opportunity to sit down with him and really discuss with him, you know, some of the stuff that's going on in his life. So that's what we're doing today. And plus, this is his welcome back type of party. You know what I mean? If I can share a little bit. So it's like you didn't see me for a while. Now let me tell you why. That's what we're doing here today. And not only that, you're going to have people reaching out to you because the stuff you're about to talk about, some of the stuff we're going to talk about is some of the stuff that you're going to be able to help people with, overcome, as well as some of the stuff that you just want to share with people anyway.
I'm just going to let you know already that this is going to be a part one of two because I already know we talk too much.
Oh, yeah.
And there's certain things, listen, because all three of us have extensive backgrounds in the church, right? Mm-hmm. So we have multiple perspectives because of where we've come from and where we're at now.
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to dive in. So I don't want you guys to feel like you have to rush. You're going to miss things. So we can come back and hit some more topics at a different time.
This is definitely something that some of the stuff that we're going to talk about is definitely stuff that people need to hear now. And I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Because we're at a point where people are trying to find answers or seeking something. Like, what am I missing? What do I need? So that's what this is. And again, some of the stuff that we might share tonight, you're going to be able to, this morning, you're going to be able to reach out to Simmie, find out some information from him. And then also just let's learn who he is, right? Because you're going to see his face again. I'm going to tell you that right now. Excuse me. But let's jump right into some of the stuff that I want to discuss with you first. You know, one of the things that I want to talk to about is your roots, where you grounded at, where you come from. You know what I mean? What built you or what made you?
Absolutely. My roots, guess you could say I'm from a place of the land of the soil, like E40 say. I'm from the Bay Area, Oakland, California, born and raised. I've had a very interesting life, upbringing, all of it. I mean, you know, if we just make it brief but from the beginning. Born and raised in Oakland, California, 1983. It was a great year. Well, unfortunately, actually, we're talking about that year in my life. Yes, I was born in Oakland. My father was actually killed when I was 9 months old, right in front of me, actually, right in front of myself and my mother. So that was the beginning of what has been a life of understanding hard truths for me, right? Yeah. It even stems back to them, but I was raised by my grandparents. Actually, my mother, she had her challenges, in Oakland in the '80s, dibbling and dabbling in different things. But I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather from Texas, his name Simmie Thompson, which is where I adopted his name after his passing.
Now, hold on one second. You said adopted his name.
Correct.
I don't, just for those that's listening, or some of the people that may not know, can you just real quick tell us what how you adopted his name, or when did you come about his name?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know, I was actually born as Tyrone Thompson. That was my father's name. And so I always identified, with my grandfather. He was one that raised me. He was one that taught me, everything. So he was very laid back. The older I get, the more like him I become. But so when we'll get to that in the story. But I actually had some health issues in 2017. That kind of led to, and during that time frame, I was going through a transformation, a very spiritual transformation for myself, and so the name change was actually just a part of that transformation. It was.
So you out here living double lives. I knew something.
He got like 3 credit cards with different names on it in his wallet.
Like, who is that?
So I actually I took my grandfather's first name.
Yeah.
My grandfather's history with his last name, that's a whole nother story, which is why I kind of disconnected from the last name.
Got you.
It was a part of my way of breaking certain generational curses.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, come on.
And
Come on, Pastor. Look, he feeling that in his spirit.
Right? So from here, there's a new, let's just say a new path that I'm forging.
Yeah. Okay.
For myself, for my children, for the generations after me, and I'm doing so really, really with, from the spirit of my grandfather.
Just so y'all know, so he ain't acting funny if he don't answer to Tyrone, because that's not his name. That's not his name. You ain't finna be out here making jokes. I think you need to call Tyrone. Yeah, that blew it for me. I thought you should say that. Like, yeah, I changed my name because too many people kept singing that song to me.
Man,
Hey.
No, I don't care where I go. Even when I was a truck driver, man, all over the United States, man, I swear. If somebody heard my name was Tyrone.
Oh, that's it.
People all of a sudden decided that they was on American Idol, and it was going down. But yeah, so I'm thankful to get that up off my back.
Yeah, so this ain't something that you so in general, like, so in your early, because I know, like, one of the things is you mentioned your grandparents, which back then we had grandparents that was in their late 40s, early 50s, raising kids, and I'm pretty sure it was something that that was a traumatic part of your life anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did that affect you? Did that affect you as being a father?
You mean having my grandparents as my parents? Yeah, absolutely. My see, the way I look at it, I know that my grandparents were when they were raising my father, they were a lot younger themselves. Yeah. So they were in a different phase in their life. Yeah. Right. They were learning to cope, learning to overcome life's challenges and whatnot themselves.
So is this your mother's father or your dad's father?
So my father's parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And
so you still had a piece of your father just from your grandfather.
Right. Absolutely. So they were most certainly a lot more. They were in a wiser stage of their life, when it came to raising me. So they did things, not that they raised me completely different. I got a lot of the same raising as most folks, as most folks in my generation's parents did. My grandparents were both. My grandfather's from Texas, my grandmother's from Atlanta. So they both have very.
You got a down south beating.
Trust me.
Switches. Yeah.
You
know the switch. Go get a switch.
Yeah,
we're gonna. I'm not gonna go get a tree
for
you to beat me.
Man, look, I got the pots and pans. I got the whatever was close.
Let me ask you a question.
Hey,
some of your
extension cords,
listen,
whatever.
Man,
it's not abuse, people, because I'm still living.
I thank God for it, to be honest.
It's not abuse, people. I'm telling you. So
But just imagine if, okay, so you know your parents now. Mm-hmm. How much calmer our parents are now than when they were raising us.
Right.
That's like you stepping into, okay, now I learned that this is not how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a unique situation for my grandparents because it was like they had, they had junior.
Right.
I was I'm my father's junior. So it was like, and then growing up, it was always, I looked just like him. My voice changed at the age of 12.
Lord.
And
this poor child,
like,
in junior high over
so
here
it
just
dropped just like this.
Teacher's like, get that grown man out of here.
calling out sick.
Oh, man. And
Well,
so
playing tricks on people for real.
people would call the house and think that they were talking to my grandfather, But I also, consequently, they say that I sounded just like my father did. So my grandparents had the opportunity to kind of re-raise him over again and do it right this
way.
time, in a manner that was
not to be weird. That's like. Man,
we got a second chance.
And then now you're like, we get to raise Junior again.
So it was, as I understand it, my father and my grandfather's connection there, they were very close, So for me, naturally, my grandfather and I grew up extremely close. Like I used to tell people when I was, even like 9 years old, they would ask me who my best friend was, and I would say my grandfather. We were really that close, and so It was kind of like it was amazing what took place during the time that I began to make the change and the transition to.
Was he alive when you changed your name? Was he still alive when you changed?
No, he had actually he passed away in 2013. In 2015 or 2016, I actually started my trucking company in his name. So I named the trucking company after him, Simmie Logistics. And then in 2017 was when I had my heart issue, and I actually in 2018 actually went through the name.
Yeah, okay, that's when I think that's when I remember. That's when I started saying it. Because when you popped up, I'm like, who did Sam Hill say? Man, these people just be jacking my phone. Now.
He's like, change the name. Who is this guy?
Is your grandmother still living?
Yes, absolutely.
What does she think about the name change?
She's very, very supportive of everything that I do. Especially nowadays. But she's seen my walk. I don't really make, and I've never really made a lot of the same choices that even just a lot of the men in my family have previously before me. I've never seen the inside of the jail cell. I've never been out there on the corner selling nothing, But this was the environment I grew up in.
Listen, don't knock selling stuff on the corner, okay? Because them Girl Scout cookies will get you, okay? They will jump you. Right. Dude, now I know you mentioned
Girl Scout
earlier,
cookies,
man,
for
listen,
real.
Do y'all know they was like, we got PayPal, we got Swipe. I'm like, what the? These kids is about it as well. Do you have a relationship with your real mother?
I do. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
And even growing up, it was hard. It was tough, especially I'm just speaking in terms of like how I mentioned hard truths. Mm-hmm. So like one of those hard truths that I had to come to grips with early on was at the age of 11. I remember my grandparents calling me into the living room, sitting me down, saying an attorney was coming over, and that they wanted to know how I felt about them adopting me, right? And they said, nothing would change. It would just be that, we would adopt you and as our legal son, and whatnot, yada yada. And so for me, it was like, man, I had spent, the majority of my early life really wanting that relationship with my mother, and but it was facing a hard truth at that point in time. That look, obviously, these are the cards that I've been dealt. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've already had to face the hard truth that my father's not coming. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have that relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we know that. I got over that at about 6 or 7, right? So here I am at 11, and it's like, okay, I kind of know at this point that I'm probably not gonna have this idea of a relationship that I thought I would, living with my mother, with my little sister and whatnot, yada yada. So, but that's okay. I see now the life that I've been given and what I'm supposed to, So even at 11 years old, that was a hard truth that I had to, and make, I said, okay, let's, I was perfectly fine with it. So they adopted me, and but I never, even through high school, my mother lived in the apartments right behind my high school, so I would go to she moved into those apartments once I got into high school. So I would actually, either after school, sometimes during school, whatever, I would, I would cut out and go behind the school and go and chill with my mom, and uplift her, just give her, even just being in her presence and allowing her to be in mine.
So you didn't harbor unforgiveness with your mom.
No.
Okay.
That's such a big deal.
Yeah.
That's such a big
years
deal.
old, I know most people be like, well, she wasn't there for me.
Right.
Then you try to come back in my life, but you know what I mean?
Right.
And I know people like that harbor hatred for their parents, that abandon them. But we have to understand, like, I'm not saying that your mom, but back in the days there was a heavy drug issue, and things like that. So a lot of parents
still a heavy drug issue.
Raising kids
Right.
Then, you know what I mean?
And they still raising their kids.
It was reality.
Man, I know so many people that was raised by their grandparents because their parents had got into their street life or got into
or in jail or just.
Do you feel like as you started getting deeper into meditation and learning, like, when we have to really bring everything back to ourselves and pull out things from our past and really examine who we are and why we are the way we are, do you feel like you had any blockages in those areas with your parents? Like, did you feel like you brought something to light that you had to deal with?
Oh yeah, I had a whole emotional trip a few months ago, actually. Man, I'm 37 and I'm just now coming to a place because of how open I am now, right? My openness, and just where I am spiritually. It was actually just after a meditation that I had. I was meditating and I saw my mother in my meditation, and I knew after I finished the meditation that I had to go and speak and see her. Not that I don't go and see my mother. I mean, I see her. I don't know how much the average person see their mother. I know my life, right? So
I see mine virtually because my mom's in Illinois and I'm here.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Like I'm not a mama's boy.
Right.
But I love my mom.
Most boys are mama's boys.
You can't tell me, listen, even my pops. I love my pops. You can't tell me nothing about my mama though. My pops says something like, "Dad, I will knock you out if you say something about my mom." But that's the way it is. Now, while we dibbling into that, let's stay right there. Now you went from Tyrone, Simmie, right? That was your early childhood, being raised by your grandparents. Now you're moving into the point where you're growing up, you're an adult. You start, you're getting all this. What changed in your adulthood, or what about your adulthood that was making you, that made you say, I need to start doing things different?
Well, you missed the whole. First of all, his background. We got to talk about the background too,
yeah, I was
because
gonna say, it
the
goes
one
back
hardest
far.
thing for me in my journey was breaking religious mindsets.
Right, but I want to hear that. I want to get to this, because I'm gonna get to that point too.
It was my journey has always been a very spiritual one. Growing up in the church, I grew up in Allen Temple Baptist Church in East Oakland. I was always involved. I was actually the president of the youth council. I was the president of the youth choir for a while. My pastor, when my voice changed, my pastor actually would call me up to do the altar prayer on Sunday mornings, and it would be broadcasted on radio all over, all over Oakland. So I had that experience. Then even in high school, when I got to high school, I actually, for a while, I went through my little stage where, I started, dibbling and dabbling in some stuff, hanging around with different folks, and, started smoking a little early and, stuff like that. And then I actually, at 15 years old, I put it all down, and you would see me walking around my high school with my Bible. at lunchtime, instead of going to the basketball court, I would actually just, go off somewhere and read my Bible. The high school I went to was Castlemont High School, which is the same high school in Oakland that Tony went to. They actually sang in that high school choir, the Castaliers. I sang in that choir as well. I was actually Mr. Castalier my senior year and had the opportunity to sing a solo for President Bill Clinton.
Stop.
Yeah.
Wait, listen. When he said he used to sing, I was like, boy, you lied to me. What you singing? Barry White? Because there's no way I can hear him even singing.
He can sing.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I'm like, I believe it is.
Archie can sing too.
No, I don't. Stop that. I am a choir singer. Go ahead.
I am a choir singer.
But yeah, I've
Sit in
been,
the third row.
so that was during my high school years. After high school, I started my own group, and we were out there doing shows all over California. We were beginning to get pretty known, and actually, Raphael Sadiq of Tony had actually gotten wind of us, and things were kind of happening. But I made a decision to leave my group at 19 years old. Because I was getting ready to actually have my first daughter, and I knew then at 19 years old that it was going to be impossible for me to live that lifestyle and actually effectively raise a family, and to do that at 19 with all of the temptation that was going to be out there and all of that. I knew for myself I wouldn't be able to to sustain that. And what my ultimate dream was, singing, music has always been my dream. It's a part of me. But what my true dream was really to start a family, because that's what I always wanted, was my mother and my father. I wanted that family. So,
Let me say something.
yeah.
My wife, if you ever get a chance to talk to her, my wife grew up in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll tell you, like, yeah, I wanted to get the degrees, but her biggest dream was to have a family.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and then, now that you say that, and I hear people that say that all the time who may not have been raised with their parents, you know what I mean, or raised by one parent, you know what I mean? Sometimes that's the path that they, they still have the dreams or the goals to do this, but this is ultimate for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when you
There's
said
a
that,
fulfillment in it for them. That's why.
Huh?
There's a fulfillment there that they never had.
It's almost like a piece of them that they didn't have.
Right.
Missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want to complete their circle, whoever they are. You know what I mean? That's
Man, my grandmother would tell you, man, when I was 8, 9 years old, I used to always say I couldn't wait to be married and have children.
I just told somebody the other day, no man sat home like, I can't wait to be a father.
That's not true.
No,
I don't know too many.
Hey,
man, even as far back.
you knew
as
when you
I
were a
could
kid, though, right?
Yeah, I knew
because
it as a
when
kid,
people,
because
when I
wanted it so. Not that I didn't have it. My grandparents were awesome.
Yeah.
They are the reason
That's
I
what's
am
up.
what I am. It's just that, I mean, as a child,
Desire.
you desire that connection, with your biological parents, and especially when when everything is like reduced to stories, right? and then those stories, you only get so much of the story before everybody begins to get choked up, and it's too hard for them to, you know what I'm saying? So like there was a lot that I actually didn't. There's a lot about my father that I didn't really, get a chance to know, because it was too hard for people to tell me, certain stories when I was young, right? So by the time I got a certain age, I stopped asking questions. I stopped even, then I started actually learning more about the stories from the cats outside as I started growing up. The OGs, when I would be walking down the street and they're like, oh my God, young Gator. Gator was my father's nickname. So Lil Gator, they call and they see me, they be like, oh, Lil Gator, man, your daddy was my best friend, that was my heart, yo, man, you look just like your daddy. Your daddy this. 19. I became a father at 19. I became a father at 19. I actually got married, my first marriage when I was 20. Had my son at 21, which my father had me at 21, and then he passed away. No, he had me at 20 and passed away when he turned 21. I had my son at 21. And thank God my son and I are still here, and doing great. And I thank God for that little man. But yeah.
No, you're good.
Oh,
I had a thought earlier, but it's gone.
But just to your point, as far as the church, I actually made the decision when my first daughter was born that I needed to get myself back in the church if I wanted to really. That was the way at that time that I saw for me to truly be able to raise her in the best way that I knew how. Right at that time, so I got involved in the church. Actually, at the church that my mother started going to when she got herself clean. I joined that church because I wanted to be close to my mother. Absolutely. I wanted her to have a relationship with my children. I wanted to create the sense of family that I felt like was taken from me. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I took matters into my own hands in that way.
As we have to sometimes.
And did your mom have a relationship with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And my mother's, thank God, my mother has been clean ever since. Right.
That's what's up.
So I thank God for my mother, and the relationship that we've continued to develop over the years. At that time, when I joined the church, I began. I just went. I did me, and when I go in with something, when I devote myself to something, when I really commit myself to something, I'm
all the way.
I'm 100% committed. So I was, at that church. It was a small church, Fisher Memorial, non-denominational church.
Your mom still go to that church?
She does. Yeah, she does. I actually.
He's like, I don't. But she do. Which
good.
We're gonna talk about this, but we're gonna go to break in like 3 minutes.
It does. Look, I don't profess to know anything about anybody else's spiritual walk, but I know the one that I've walked.
I will not.
Right? I know the one that I've walked, and I know that can't nobody tell me nothing unless you've walked in my shoes and walked the path that I've walked.
Period.
Listen, I don't think people understand. Like, when you get to... So here's the thing, because I grew up in church. Now, here's the thing. When I say I grew up in church, I mean 5
days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week.
My mom took me to church. I didn't have a choice.
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't. I went by myself.
I didn't have a choice. My mom... Even in my little age, if I'm asleep on that seat, my auntie gonna pinch me, tell me to wake up, right? Because I'm forced at that point to go to church. By the time when I became a teenager and I got to the point where I felt like I could make my own decision, I still went to church. My mama still it was. Yeah, I can make my own decision. I ain't going to church day. Oh yes, you is. You getting up out of my house. If you ain't going to my church, you going somewhere, but you ain't coming in my. You ain't staying in my house. Fine, I'll go to church. You know what I mean?
Crazy thing. When I was like I said, I did so much in my church growing up. Right, the church I grew up at was my grandmother's church. I actually left that church when I was 16 and decided to. It was a Baptist church that I grew up in. It was actually Allen Temple Baptist Church was one of the largest ministries in Oakland, and probably even in Oakland. But so I actually left that church and started going to a Kojic church. Myself.
For those people that don't understand these terms, it is so much the church if you're not a spiritual person. If you ain't never been to.
Right, so I started going to a Kojic church all on my own.
Listen, Kojic women couldn't wear pants in Kojic.
I couldn't wear pants either.
It was one of my then girlfriends, right? One of my ex-girlfriends in high school. But I was extremely serious because I went to church with her one day and I was just kind of amazed. I couldn't, to see youth my age and stuff that were actually really giving themselves
to God.
They were. It was growing up in the Baptist church, it was a little different.
That was me. When I turned 19, when I was 18, I moved from Chicago to Bloomington where my sister lived.
Right.
And at that point, I'm 18, almost 19 years old. I'm seeing people my age, maybe a little younger, maybe 15, maybe 16, 17, 18. They in church thank you, Jesus. Man, you faking, but they for real. So I didn't. And so when I'm All right, maybe I need to try to stop playing it. Let me pay attention.
When I saw that,
Let me pay attention.
when
What's
I
so wrong?
right, when I saw that,
Yeah.
it made me
That's
think
funny.
like, okay,
What up,
what have I
Ted?
been doing wrong? Have I not been because
I don't feel that.
Exactly.
yeah, it's so I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to, hang around here a little bit and figure out. So I kind of look. It was my grandmother was like, oh, really? Just thought it, but she also knew that I was very, very serious about about my spiritual path.
Dude, when I tell you my life changed when it came to that, because I was like going to church. Because I always thought church was just something that your parents made you do. I really wasn't. So when I got to that point where I see people my age doing, let me just see what this is about.
Yeah.
Man, they was in there singing and dancing. This is back when Kirk Franklin was coming out with the
Stomp
and everything like that. I'm like, man, there's
Like, it almost sounds like secular music.
When
girl.
I tell y'all know the floor slide that Usher
Got
do with his feet.
excited.
You know the floor slide that Usher do with his feet, right?
Yep.
We had a youth night, and my guy did that. I was like, you can't do that in church. Usher do that in his videos. No. But I started taking church serious too, because then at that point, there was situations happening in my life, and I was like, I don't know who to turn to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the more I dug into my word, the more I started seeking him, the more things that changed for me. I'm like, okay, God is real. You know what I mean? And it got more real when there was a situation in church. And I don't know if people believe in this, but if I believe in spirits, I'm going to tell you why. I'm in church. I'm 20, maybe 22, 23. We in a circle praying. And the lady was like, well, lock hands, because we're gonna pray for the people. The moment she said lock hands and we started praying, the whole atmosphere changed. It seemed like it was sunny outside and got dark. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Right? The moment we praying, and I just, I open my eyes every now and then, especially when we're in deep prayer, just to see what's going on. Watch and pray. That's how Don't judge me. I'm still in, though.
I love you, Archie.
I'm still in my holy.
Watch and pray.
Hey, I'm still in my Holy Ghost shunt, though.
Lord.
Roxy know what I'm talking about. Hey, Baba shit. Here now. Okay, I see y'all. Listen, the guy,
I know that's right.
The guy on my right side.
He said, "I'll watch
literally
and pray."
Started levitating. And I never experienced it. I tried to let go.
Should I try to drop him?
And you know what? This one, because I was finna let go. She was like, "Don't let go." I'm like, "What you mean he floating?" She was like, "We're gonna keep praying," and we praying. All within this circle. She started praying and she slapped this girl on the chest. Like, it wasn't a hard slap. It was just like you gonna come out, demon. You come out. She started calling the demon by his name. The demon says, "You ain't got shit on me." I'm not even joking. Her neck swole up. Her head dropped back. I said, "Oh, I gotta go." At that point, I realized God is real, because I'm like, God, if you get me out of this one, like I'm in my prayer, like, Lord, okay, listen, you got harm me.
He praying like this. Look,
I got for real. Look, my eyes went from
like
here.
this.
Look, my eyes went from here. Man, I was like, oh shit, I don't know what show like that. Listen, when I tell you, things started changing in my life that I started noticing. I started seeing. I started speaking things. Because the Bible tells you speak those things. When I started hearing those scriptures and things like that, I used to think stuff was cliche. But when you start putting that stuff into action, it changed me.
Yeah.
At that point, like you said, you doing this, dude. I was in the choir. I was the praise and worship leader. I was in praise and worship team. I was the youth leader. Me and my wife, we tried to become. We was almost to the point where we were the youth pastor. Like, that's how far I was trying to get into it, because I didn't want to. Because at this point, I'm like, now I'm seeing that my walk with God wasn't because of my parents. Yeah, my parents introduced it to us. They forced us to do it.
Yeah, no, you got to make.
But you got to make that decision.
I mean,
yourself.
just the spiritual path itself is it has to be intimate. So like for myself, yeah.
We got to take a break, guys.
Dude, take a break.
He's like, go ahead, take a break.
We'll take a break.
Yeah, we was trying to take a break. Pastor Word started preaching. You know how he is. You don't know when church is going to end around here.
Listen, we coming right back. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. We're going to come right back. We're going to get into some more of the spiritual talk. But also, we're going to get into some of the stuff that he started studying. And we're going to get into a little bit of your sickness and what pushed you into the studies as well, or what opened your eyes in the spiritual world. But anyway, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Archie Lee.
This is Lovely.
And this is Mr. Simmie T.
Mr.
And we'll be
Simmie
right
T.
back on the Support District Radio Network.
It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and find that there's none. The service was great, spectacular, grand. But alas, no cash in your pocket or coin in your hand. But we have the solution. It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and find that there's none. The service was great, spectacular, grand. But alas, no cash in your pocket or coin in your hand. But we have the solution for a job well done. And it only requires one swipe of the thumb. Just 1, 2, 3 and you're set to pay. Bravo, bravo, we dare do say. This cashless app is here to stay. It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and find that there's none. The service was great, spectacular, grand. But alas, no cash in your pocket or coin in your hand. But we have the solution for a job well done. And it only requires one swipe of the thumb. Just 1, 2, 3 and you're set to pay. Bravo, bravo, we dare do say. This cashless app is here to stay. It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and find that there's none. The service was great, spectacular, grand. But alas, no cash in your pocket or coin in your hand. But we have the solution for a job well done. And it only requires one swipe of the thumb. Just 1, 2, 3 and you're set to pay. Bravo, bravo, we dare do say. This cashless app is here to stay. It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and find that there's none. The service was great, spectacular, grand. But alas, no cash in your pocket or coin in your hand. But we have the solution for a job well done. And it only requires one swipe of the thumb. Just 1, 2, 3 and you're set to pay. Bravo, bravo, we dare do say. This cashless app is here to stay. It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and find that there's none. The service was great, spectacular, grand. But alas, no cash in your pocket.
This is that once in a lifetime.
job well done. And it only requires one swipe of the thumb. Just 1, 2, 3, and you're set to pay. Bravo, bravo, we dare do say. This cashless app is here to stay. It's a universal dilemma for a job well done. Reach into your pocket and spectacular, grand. For the last, no problem.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we're back. Are we back? Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Lovely. Support District Radio, Support District Television. I want to jump in really quick to something that's really important, I think, especially when you are talking about spiritual journey. The importance of understanding the difference between religion and spirituality. Because when we're younger and we are in the church and we're just like school or anywhere else that you're absorbing information, your mind is being trained in a certain manner. And we don't realize that just because the teachings that we are that we're learning may be good or important or detrimental to our growth, doesn't mean the way things are delivered to us are correct, right? Just like we all got our butts beat when we were young. Some of us, there was a lot of abuse in our homes. We got the lessons, right? But we didn't appreciate how the message was delivered, right? So we have to think about church. I think about church the same way. I'm grateful for my journey through the church. Like pastor, I was in the church from 5 until I moved to Arizona. And with that, when I say in the church, you know, praise and worship leader, children's ministries, I cleaned the church, I set up the sound, like I was doing everything. I slept there half the time, but I didn't have my family there. I was doing that by myself. So as a kid doing that by yourself, it's a very different, you're pushing yourself into it because you don't have the family life that you want. So you go find the family that does want you, right? And that's kind of what church is to a lot of people. So I think that we also, as humans, have to look at why we're doing it. What's our intent? I'm going to church because I want to feel closeness, I want to feel loved, I want to feel accepted, and all those things. And those are not a you and other people issue. Those are a you and you issue.
That's good.
Right? But until we get to the point in our walk, we don't realize that's an us issue until we realize that everyone else around us has failed, and still you sit with the same hurt. Right? Until you deal with it. So I want to get into it, Simmie, real quick. At what point did you realize that your religious mindset and your spiritual mindset did not comply?
Good question. Well, just as you said, when I actually joined my mother's church, I quickly became I was the choir director. I probably led about 85% of the songs in the choir. I was praise team. I was the president of the brotherhood, the men's ministry. I had keys to the church, so I was the main one that would unlock the doors because I always had flexible jobs during that period. So like I would actually, leave from my route at work to come and unlock the doors, right? And I would always be the first one at the church. I also, on Sunday mornings, I would play the organ until the organist got there because he was always late. And then from the organ, I would jump on the drums until the drummer got there.
Always late.
And then once the drummer got there, then I would go from the drums to my saxophone, and I would play the saxophone. And then once it was time for the praise team to actually start, then I'd jump up and praise team, and then once the choir started, I got up and I directed the choir.
Every rotation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was also the men's Sunday school teacher. All of this, and I'm 23, 24 years old. I did this from the time that I was 20. I was also one of the ministers at the church. I started preaching at about 21. So from the time I was 21 until I was 28, 29 actually. was the period. One day, I actually, because I went through a lot of challenges during that time, and lost a lot of jobs. I kept, it was crazy how it would happen. I would lose a job due to something crazy, either the job would go out, the company would go out of business, or they would get, or like I was working for a contractor for Comcast, and Comcast cut their contract nationwide. I'm supervising, I'm on salary. Come in, and all of a sudden they talking about we gotta pack up all of the cable reels.
Well, you go right
get
to the
all
church
of the files out of
there,
and I'm like, what? But this happened to me so many times, and I had my family looking at me, from the outside in, looking at me as if, I just can't hold a job, or all of these different things, right? So it was a real, it was a crazy time. But through all of those challenges, I continued to keep rising. At one point, I actually started doing prepaid legal, which is now called Legal Shield. Right?
Go ahead.
Okay. So got into prepaid legal. If anybody knows about prepaid legal, I jumped in there, and within my first 30 days, I shot up to the director mark, right? Just under executive director. But during that time, what really drew me in about prepaid legal was their attention on personal development. Okay. So they kept recommending all of these different books, and one of the main books that they recommended was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that was the second time that book had been introduced to me. Someone else had introduced that book to me when I was actually doing cable. And that was a few years back. So here this book is introduced to me again through prepaid legal. And I said, oh my God, you know what? Okay, maybe I should really read this book. So I got the book. I went to a library. I actually sat there in the library and I read. It was about, I don't know, that book's like 700 and something pages. I read through about maybe 500 and something pages right there in the library I sat there for about 4 or 5 hours, and then finally I just checked the book out, went back home, read the rest of the book that night. Then and then I took the whole rest of that week to then break that book down in the same way that I would break down the Bible when I was trying to actually prepare a sermon.
Exegete.
Right? So I started taking notes on every little thing, and breaking this book down. And the book showed me that there was so much void about myself, about life, right? Because my life up until that point, I had only read really one book. Okay?
Lack of knowledge.
And that was the Bible. And these were concepts and things about myself, about life, about human behavior, about all of these things that I never, so it opened up my mind in a way, and I was like, wow, do you mean to tell me there's so much in here that I just really don't know yet? Mm-hmm. Right? So from that book, over the next 6 months, I actually read about 95 more books. Mm-hmm. Okay? Books about human behavior, personal development, personal magnetism. I even did some studying on hypnotism, on self-hypnotism. I studied all types of just feeding myself. I was hungry. I realized that I hadn't. There have been ways that I had not been feeding myself, and that while I had been searching all this time for this relationship with this God that was supposed to be outside of me, right, and that I was supposed to somehow open myself up to let in, I had not been taught or shown how to actually develop a relationship with myself. Mm-hmm. Never once was I taught or shown or even explained the importance of self-love and really truly having a relationship. As a matter of fact, I was actually told that if I wasn't giving my love and myself to God, that I was a wretch and I was nothing in the eyes of God. Right? Mm. Right? So it was the most confusing thing to me once I started reading all of these books that kept telling me that I was all of these different things that
I'm actually like, how am I all of this when unless I'm giving all of this to God, I'm nothing, right? So what it made me do at that point was I decided, you know what, I had to really take a look at things, and I said, you know what, I've actually believed all of this that I have believed up until this point, not by my own will. I believe this because this was what my grandmother first showed me when I was a baby, when I was young. This is what I've been told to believe all of this time. Never once was this my decision to believe this. So if I'm gonna actually, at this point, at this stage of the game, okay, I mean, I've given all to this religion, to this church, to this ministry. I've given everything. At the time, I had been through. I was doing so much praying, so much fasting. I was anointing my children's head, my ex-wife's head, and everything at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm talking about really seriously trying to live that walk. And I didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't cuss for a 10-year period. Okay, really trying to live this lifestyle, but yet I went through 4 evictions. I experienced I experienced losing 5 different prominent jobs that I had at the time, and each time I was forced to have to find my own way to pick myself back up and bounce back. And at that stage, I said, you know what? If I'm gonna believe this, I'm gonna believe it on my own. So therefore, I have to take a step back and assume for a moment that all of this is bullshit. Let me just assume for a moment that none of this is real. Mm-hmm. Let's take it back. Let's take it to, you know, not somebody made me believe this. Somebody brought this to me. If this information was coming to me, somebody brought this book to me and brought this information to me as a man, and I don't know nothing about it, would I believe it, and why would I? And I had to really ask myself. I had to get into the most uncomfortable position with myself, because remember, being a preacher and being everything that I was in the ministry, it was very hard for me. This was my life. This was my life. And I was being asked to go against something that I was actually at that time, that I truly wholeheartedly believed at that time. I didn't know if I went against it, I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me, right? So it was the most frightening time of my life. But nonetheless, I knew that something was missing, right? So I stepped outside of the church to begin to actually seek God for myself, right? So I started reading books on how did Christianity even come about? Where did the Bible come from? Okay, see, now I'm gonna start asking questions I can't find in Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
now I'm gonna start asking questions you can't show me in 1 Kings. All right.
Yeah.
So these are the questions I have to actually step outside of this book.
Yeah.
In order to truly find these and seek these answers for myself. Yeah. Right? So in doing so, I even found that, so this book was actually a bunch of different, different manuscripts and everything that was comprised together, pieced together. And, a lot of it has information that, King James actually threw in there himself when he was putting this book together. But then I also looked at, King James was the one that actually comprised what we know as the Bible right now. But he also wrote another book 14 years prior to that
Bible,
book.
yeah.
And that book was called Demonology. And Demonology, well, I ain't opened up the book, but I actually, did some research into what it was that King James was on that had him actually dibbling and dabbling in the demonology before he creates this manuscript that all of my people, seem to think is supposed to be what we are supposed to live our entire life by.
And here's the thing: even when you study, think about it. You think about this too. And I'm listening because you never said that you turned away.
Yeah,
you just said I took a different path. Yes, I had to seek for myself. So then it was like, okay, wow. Now I'm not,
eventually what ended up happening was, in my search for God, I ended up coming closer and closer and closer to myself. I ended up becoming more and more, it ended up opening me more and more to the God that was within me, that is connected to all things, right? Which is what God is anyway.
Yeah.
But I had for so long been so used to God being projected to me as this image of something that was external from myself, that I somehow had to lessen myself in order for me to come into the fullness of something that was external from me.
Yeah.
And that, you know what I'm saying? And if I didn't tiptoe on this right path, that somehow I and my connection to this external source no longer would be connected, right? So all of these things.
But because you had studied for so long in the church, and you can see that looking outside of it, right? Mm-hmm. Can't you see how many contradictory things that you taught, right? Like, you're teaching these things, you're saying, okay, but it leads to me. It's always gonna, like I said, all of our problems come back to us, and all of our solutions come back to us.
I had to realize that, and they say, the enemy is within me, right? And absolutely, I had to discover that I, not some devil, not some whatever, was my problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to take accountability. And so, it was through reading books by, people like Dr. Wayne Dyer, where, one of a quote that I took from a book that I read from him, and it wasn't even really a quote. He was telling a story, and through his story, I grasped from that story a concept that I took and gained as my own quote, and it's the only obstacle that we ever have to overcome in life is the belief that we even have to have obstacles.
So at this point you are, let me ballpark it. So at this point, your spiritual journey has now changed from being in a physical building of church,
right,
to let me seek Him for myself, right? Mm-hmm. So you're probably in your 30s at this point.
This happened at actually 2012. So 2012, yes, I was 30. Yes, I sure was. I was 30,
31,
32, something like that.
Okay,
yeah,
so now you're studying. You come across this path of different of a different spiritual walk.
I just didn't show up to church one Sunday morning.
But it's a different spiritual walk.
Yeah.
It's still with God.
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
a different spiritual walk.
Yes, absolutely.
What did you start studying at that point? What did you start getting into?
So there were it was mostly like it was books. It was self-development that kind of started the path for me. And then from there, I actually started looking into, okay, so these principles in the Bible, which are what I still hold on to, right? Because it wasn't that I just completely left Christianity or I stopped, but
I'm taking the word literally and changing it. I got you.
But it was me understanding that these principles have now become a part of my soul. Okay, so positivity and love and peace and joy, not trying to do harm and negativity to my brother. Yes. All of these, just the main principles I kept. But I also noticed that these same principles were the same principles that are even taught in Buddhism and Hindu and in Muslim faiths and so all of these different, not that I've actually ventured off to or devoted my time to. It's just that I began to look at everything. It became me studying to show myself approved. Ain't that what it says? That's what it says. In the Bible, it says, study to show thyself approved, a workman that needeth not be ashamed. Okay, I still remember a little bit of that book.
It also says we will perish without the lack without knowledge.
Yes,
Lack of
absolutely.
knowledge will perish.
And so, you know, the studying, it didn't say that all of our studies were supposed to be,
From
or
that
everything
book,
that we're supposed to learn was supposed to come from that book,
Yeah.
right? So I studied. That studying became my life. And where my spiritual path took a complete change was actually when I was out on the road driving big rigs, and I started getting out, you know, actually stretching it out, being gone for a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time. During this time, my previous marriage was actually really in a turmoil. It had been in a turmoil, and it was the challenging. It was the challenges at that time that kind of made me, you know, really kind of, you know, start venturing out. And I used that time while I was out there on the road to. It was still in me.
You
so
still
I
got
was
your ring?
studying. Do I now?
Yeah. You still got your truck?
No, I don't actually.
My pops was a truck driver. That's why I'm like, my pops still would love it. If my pops didn't have diabetes, I think he would still be driving a truck right now today. I swear.
So
I want to jump into
Yeah.
some of the stuff that you've learned and how you've implemented that into your life, how it's affected your relationship, how that your journey now connects you to your wife now.
Before
And-
that, what?
and
How
the
did you get into this?
And the difference between how your children were and where they're at now because of your choice in your spiritual walk. Because
So-
I think that's a major change for them.
Absolutely. So one of the things that really changed for me was I actually began to, in 2017, after my heart issue, I was diagnosed with coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, and that kind of changed the course of everything for me. That's when I stopped driving big rigs, actually. And from there, since I couldn't keep driving, and I was, you know, stuck in this recovery stage, I said, okay, let's really dive into this astrology now, and let me really just, you know, take the time to learn the parts of it and the secrets that I've never really delved into. So I actually started paying for curriculums, really learning astrology for myself. If it led me to nowhere, hey, at least I got some cool information out of it, right? But I really felt like this was that something was trying to show me something, and so I began to really dive into it. Astrology was actually one of the uses that astrology is actually one of the things that I utilize to actually pinpoint a cancerous disease that I found out that I had towards the end of last year.
Time out. You used astrology to find out that you didn't go to a doctor. After you found it.
Once I saw it in my chart, I had to go to the doctor.
We gotta do this chart reading.
Hey, let me tell you, I want to say
Is that why I
something
ain't
that's
got no
really,
eyebrows?
really
Does
important.
astrology say something about my eyebrows? I'm just-
Listen. So we carry a lot of information from our past.
Past lives.
We carry a lot of information from our ancestors that we don't realize we know until we need it, and then it comes up like, right? But at the same time, we carry a religious mindset. We carry what they call a carnal mindset as well, right? And as Simmie was going through things, I want to say something. I've never felt so connected in this way to somebody that's not my blood with you. And we're so much alike. It's crazy. But we're so much alike because our charts are so similar. And I think people don't understand what any of that means, like our character, the way we move, the way we think. Yes. And it's not just a Capricorn. There's different forms of Capricorn. It just happens that we're the type of Capricorns that we are just a slight, you know what I mean?
Now, hold on real quick. Now, I remember waking up getting in the paper or whatever, reading the astrology section or whatever, right? And people like, you can't read that wickedness.
Man.
But look, let me finish this real quick. So, Simmie and I were having a conversation, and we were speaking on family, and we were speaking on my mother, and there was a lot of information that he was able to give me that nobody knows about my mother through my reading of where she was placed in my path and my reading had nothing.
While you saying reading, I want people to understand. He's not talking about tarot cards. He's talking about your astrology, your daily
chart,
the chart. That
So let me explain that, because a lot of people don't even really understand why astrology works. Okay, so understand that in the same way that that the sun has its effect on us. Okay, we get our vitality from the sun rays. The sun provides us warmth. The sun gives us life. Without the sun, we don't grow. Things here doesn't grow.
we
right?
Superman.
The fuel that we put in our bodies in order for us to sustain here
grown
actually
by the sun.
needs the sun in order for it to grow, right? So the sun provides us with all of these different things. Now, that's the energy we get from the sun. What is the sun?
The ball of gas.
What else is it? What do we classify it as?
here.
A planet.
It's over, Pastor.
No, what do you mean?
The sun, actually, the sun is the one thing in our solar system that's not a planet.
It's
What
a
is
star.
it? It's a star, right? Now, so the sun is a star. Just like the sun that we have here, there are millions or billions, trillions of other stars out in the sky, right? Also, we have these other planets. Just like the sun has its effect on us through its light rays, these planets, these stars also emit their own light rays. The reason why we're able to see them in the night sky is because their light rays are actually making it here to Earth. So if the light rays are making it here to Earth in the same way that the light from our star makes it here to Earth, then just like our star's light rays affect us, so do the light rays of every other star that we can see.
Okay.
Right?
So let's dig into this real quick. You got sick. COPD. Is it COPD?
COPD.
No, just culinary issues and heart problems, right?
No colon. No colon.
No, I'm saying you culinary.
Oh, colon.
I'm saying it wrong.
Congestive.
That's what I meant. I meant congestive heart failure. So not congestive heart failure, and I should know this. I sell medication for this stuff. What the crap? I'm terrible. I talk about COPD and congestive heart failure all the time. But you got congestive heart failure.
Yeah.
You was in the hospital.
Yeah.
How many days?
I was in the hospital from New Year's Eve to I think I came out of the hospital like January 10th, 11th.
You were at the party. So you New Year's Eve you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
And you were on the truck. You were in the truck. You were studying. You were studying your astrology while you were in the truck.
Yeah.
When you were basically, hopefully this don't sound wrong or anything like that. When you were on your back, when God had your full attention, I'm gonna say God had your full attention now. You turned your attention to something that you can use to help the people. Right? You started studying this for yourself. What were you finding out the more and more you studied?
So
For yourself.
For myself.
Before you started.
I was using astrology because I had to figure out for myself why after doing and constantly trying to do so much good in my life, why was I continuously receiving so much negative energy back, right? Everything, even from just the energy that I put in my, and those that were close to me knew me, and they knew how serious I really was about certain things within my life. There's certain things that I just would not do, that I refuse to do. I never will, never have, right? And I've always been a very, very optimistic and positive individual, right? But being in that position, that was the most vulnerable position I'd ever been forced to have to be in.
And I remember laying on that bed that night, New Year's Eve. And this was actually when something happened. That night on New Year's Eve, when they gave me my diagnosis, and they didn't know if I was going to actually see 2018 that next day, right? I wasn't sure if I was. Actually, I take that back. I knew that I was. But for some reason, it was more like, okay, when we wake up tomorrow, something has to be different. Mm-hmm. Something has to change. Yeah. I've done everything that I know in my power, and I've been doing it, right? That was the reason why I made the decision to really get involved in the ministry the way I did. That was the reason why, why I made the decision to be as committed to my spiritual walk as I was. Why am I only receiving this back?
Let me say something. And I know, like, it's all like you have. Like even now, I do it. I'm like, why isn't this happening for me? Like, why am I not getting, or why is this not happening for me? And I know I'm like, I've been a good person. And things like that. Why is it not happening to me?
Right.
You know what I mean? So you land there, you say, you know what, tomorrow, let me look. I got to know why.
Yeah. So I actually, once I started learning how to read my chart, the astrology path was really just me trying to find out if I could gain some answers. I needed some answers. Okay. I had been looking at the Bible for years, but it wasn't giving me true answers to my unique situation, right? It was giving me answers to certain things, but not to why I was going through what I was going through, and I needed to know that. And so, as I began to learn the different energies of the planets, how they affect us, all of these things, and then learn the chart, how the chart is actually set up, and what it means for me. Then I was able to see how, or even pinpoint what the energies were that caused me to have to go through many of the life experiences that I went through. Yeah. I was able to look in my chart and go back and see, oh my God, yeah, that's what led to this, that's what led to that. And then it became, as I began to get deeper and deeper, then it became, okay, so let me see what's coming in the future.
So you followed your chart
backwards. I needed to go backwards in order to actually clarify the history, right? Yeah. In order for me to become comfortable with astrology, I needed to be able to utilize it to prove what I had already experienced. If it could prove to me and show me what I had already been through, then I know that, you know what, it has a pretty good chance of proving to me what I'm about to experience.
So you in this. Oh, that happened when I was 12.
Yeah.
Oh, this happened when I was 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You use it. You find out you got a cancer.
So actually last summer, I was actually looking at my chart just to see what was getting ready to come for like the Christmas season, the end of the year, the holiday season. I wanted to know how my year was going to end in 2019. And I noticed that there were all of these planets aligning in Sagittarius. Okay. As I noticed this, I had also been doing some studying into the birth chart of the United States, because here's something that people don't know. It's not just us that have birth charts. A birth chart is a chart of where it shows and it pinpoints exactly where each planet was aligned in the solar system, in the sky, at the exact time of the birth of anything, right? The exact time and placement of that birth. So the time, the date, and the birthplace, or wherever the location is of whatever thing it is. So even, yes, a country has a time and a date and a place of its actual birth location, right? Everything does, right? So by looking into the chart of the United States, when I noticed all of these planets that were aligning in Sagittarius for me, what it meant for me, I'm like, wait a minute, this is happening in my 8th house. That's another story. We're going to talk about that on the 31st when I actually write. But the 8th house actually represents, when we're talking about the physical body, it represents the sex organs, okay? And all of these planets in my 8th house, and I have a couple of planets sitting in my 8th house from, in my own actual chart, my own alignment. So I knew that something was really coming for me. It ended up turning out when I went to go and check myself into the hospital that I had a testicular tumor. Again, my 8th house, the sex organs. Okay? I was able to pinpoint that by seeing all of those planets and knowing what the energies of those planets meant. I knew it meant something very detrimental for me. They were able to pull the tumor out just in time. Here's the funny thing about that alignment, though. That alignment wasn't just an alignment for me. That alignment was an alignment in the sky. That means it's affecting everything on a macro level and a micro level. So by looking into the chart of the United States, it was that exact same alignment that created what we now are dealing with is COVID. Okay? So that alignment took place on December 25th, 2019. December 27th, once the moon moved out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn, it actually was when we actually heard the first, or when we started, finding out the first, the first announcements that of coronavirus in Wuhan, China, right? So this all took. Now I saw all of this happening in the chart back in July when I was just looking in the chart for myself.
We ain't got time. I know we gotta get ready to get out of here. Cause I know y'all got stuff to do. I gotta come back to this. So real quick.
She said we was gonna have to do this on Tuesday.
No. Like, cause now I want, because I know because you tried to give me my chart for my birthday and I couldn't, because my stupid birth certificate don't got the time for it. So let me ask you this question as we come into this. So let me ask you this question now. We got to come back to this eventually, but you go check in, you figure it out now. But let me go back for a second. Did you use this to connect with your now wife? Back then, she was just a friend.
Absolutely. Actually,
you stole our friend from us, by the way.
So actually, yes and no. At the time that I met her, I was definitely, learning astrology. I hadn't begun the deep studies that I had. That's right. You asked us our sign. I'm like, don't nobody ask But what I did do was our wedding, which took place August 22nd of this year, 2020.
My anniversary was August 5th, by the way.
That was actually very, very much so astrologically planned. So I looked into our charts, and there's something that I'm able to do, which is called a synastry chart, where you can take the charts of two different individuals and put those charts together, and you can actually read the energies between those two people and see how they actually coincide, what type of challenges. Her sun sign is actually, in Western astrology, she's a Taurus. In Eastern astrology, Vedic astrology, which is what I practice, she's actually, her sun is actually in Aries, so she's an Aries. So we'll talk about that more too later. But so I did use astrology on that day. I used astrology to pinpoint the most auspicious date and time. We got married 8/22/2020 at 4:44 p.m. Actually in Mount Shasta, and Mount Shasta is actually the root chakra of the earth.
444. I'm telling you right now. Every time I wake up in the middle of the night. 444 is the number I see.
My alarm is set for 4:44 every morning. That's the time I get up and meditate.
Dude, when I tell you that alarm, when I tell you 444, it don't matter what it is. Even in the middle of the day, when I look at the clock, I'm be like, why is 444 showing up? Like, am I supposed to be doing something with these numbers, Lord? What is this number? Number 4. 4 has to mean something. You know what I mean? So, because we got to get out of here. God, I want to dig into this more. Because I know we didn't get into a chance to talk about some of the stuff like the love, and can you find love with astrology?
Yeah, because we definitely want, and we're going to do that another time. We'll do a whole, we'll do another segment where I really want to actually break down and talk about karma.
When you come back, so what I'd like for us to do, I'd like for you to do is if we can make a post, and just see who would respond and see if we can get their date of births, the information that you need. And let's do it when we come, because when we get the opportunity again, we'll be able to read somebody's chart or get somebody's chart done live. Because I think this is some of the stuff that we need to dabble into anyway. Because let me ask you this question: Have you dabbled into it, looked into it?
Someone just texted me, I need my chart done.
I know that we do this. Have you looked into what this is saying about the up and coming year for far as presidency?
Man, I've looked into.
Because we talked on the phone about.
He looks at everything.
I've talked on the phone about a situation. And he was like, "I saw that coming from the charts." Have you done that? Have you looked into it? What's going to happen for this presidency or 2021, whatever?
I've looked into quite a bit. I've actually looked at Donald Trump's chart, and
he is the devil, huh?
oh, I've definitely done some readings. Look, most certainly because of this virus and because of one of the main things that I wanted to really know was I will say this. Please know that something, if not Corona itself, something else is coming. Know that.
Yeah.
Something else is coming. And
So does that mean prepare for things?
Well, what I will say is
Get some canned foods, yeah. No,
yeah,
grow a garden. Grow a garden. Learn how to make your own food.
Here's the thing. You have to be prepared.
You have to be prepared.
Even though he's saying this, we still need to be prepared for what's gonna happen because we talked about this yesterday, and not to sound like crazy, if Donald Trump wins, we're possibly looking at we was talking about it might be a war, whether it's internal or if it's this is stuff we've just been thinking about. So when you say you don't know what
if he wins, there's definitely riots happening.
I will tell you guys this. There was we had over the summer we had a 3 eclipse. It was 3 back-to-back eclipses. So in June, we had a lunar eclipse, followed by a solar eclipse 2 weeks later, followed by another lunar eclipse 2 weeks after that. These eclipses marked what we are now walking into, but there was an eclipse that took place that caused COVID to happen. What a lot of people don't know is that these eclipses happen. Each eclipse takes place, or it follows the phase of an eclipse that took place the exact same time frame, 18 and a half years prior. So 18 and a half years before what we just saw take place with COVID, that eclipse was on the 25th. 18 and a half years prior to that, we saw this same thing happen with 9/11. Okay? Now, what took place when 9/11 hit? All of a sudden, the airlines began they had to beef up security. It was crazy. They were shutting down airports, all types of stuff. Yeah. Right? We witnessed a lot of the same thing with COVID. Yeah. Okay. Shutting down airlines, airports, the economy when 9/11 took place, the economy actually turned upside down. Same thing happened here in this place, right? Yeah. Okay. So it's just now we're in a different phase. Then it was what has been said to be a terrorist attack, right? This time it's actually an attack that was more viral, okay? Nonetheless, it sparked the same type of atmosphere, right? 18 and a half years later. Now, just like I told you, these things happen on a macro level in the same way they happen on a micro level. Think of what took place for yourself 18 and a half years prior, right? Anytime these eclipses come up, always remember and look back to what you were doing and where you were 18 and a half years prior. I can assure you, you will begin to see a lot of the same types of energies that you experience
18 and a half years before, some of those same type of experiences and energies are going to come back up. There may have even been people in your life that you X'd out 18 and a half years prior, that during the time of an eclipse, depending on your chart and where the north and south node of the moon is in your chart and where it is in that eclipse, it can show even past, people energies coming back. During this particular time and this particular eclipse season that we just went through, you're going to find that certain people that are putting forth or trying to put their egos on display are really being they're being snatched from their platforms. Okay,
I don't have any.
Donald Trump and his ego, right? He's leading with ego right now. But this is not a forgiving time for egoistic behavior.
Yeah.
But that goes from, again, macro level, such as the presidency, to even a micro level. Look around in your lives. Look at yourself. Are you leading from a place of ego? Because if you are, you may want to check yourself. Because it's not a forgiving time. Because
you're going to lose
that
your
type
platform.
Of energy. What this time is doing, though, is this is a time where people are now beginning to completely reinvent themselves. You're going to see people reinvent their entire lives. People that you used to know one way or were doing things one way. They lived one life. All of a sudden, they completely reinvent their lives. And then there's going to be other people, because of their charts, that it's going to happen backwards. This time, instead of them reinventing themselves and coming out, as something completely new, a lot of people during this time are actually going to backtrack and go backwards to some of the same previous habits that they used to have that they had already let go. So it's a very, very, very karmic and pivotal time right now. And those that aren't in tune with self,
I believe this is why when people talk about astrology and stuff like that, it gets scary. Just like tarot card reading gets scary because it's almost like it's showing somebody who they are. That's why it seems scary. Because here's the thing, right?
It's easy to blame it on the devil.
Exactly. And that's the thing. The moment you hear somebody talk
there's no
tarot
accountability
cards,
there.
Right. The moment you hear somebody talk about tarot cards, they be like, "Oh God, this person practiced dark magic." No, they don't. You know what I mean? I actually saw a video. I told him this where the lady, she was a spiritual. She did spiritual tarot cards. You know what I mean? And all you're doing is just using what God created.
Yeah.
Basically, you reading it. You using. If what God created was a braille, you just literally just brailled everything that just happened in life. Period.
Absolutely.
Again, Simmie is trained. He is certified in this information. We can put his information up if you want him to do a reading for you. We're gonna get back into this again when we come back. But listen, make sure you follow him on social media if you don't already follow him. If you need a reading, he'll tell you what you need. Reach out to him or his wife, and I'm pretty sure they'll set you up because they actually dope people. She actually has her holistic. She's a holistic certified, holistic whatever something.
Don't let him ruin everything.
Listen, when I tell you, I watched Teddy's video about some of the information she provided for him. So I'm telling you that
we're just out here trying to help other people live better lives.
That's what we
exactly.
That's what
if you could do it the natural way, why not do it anyway? So and that's what y'all doing anyway, y'all.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy that y'all put these two people together because when I see, I'm like, why are they so everything? Like
they're everything.
Yeah,
right?
let me borrow that book so I can read it, and then let me borrow some tea. Let me sip that tea while I read what he read. But anyway, listen. Again, he tried to do my birth certificate. Did not have my time. I'm still mad at that.
That's all right. We got, and I already have Amanda's birth information, so we can do. You get your time.
Man, we're gonna have to do one. I just want you to do one live. Like I didn't want you to do something so people can be like, "This fool is really good."
We'll see.
Because people only believe when they see it.
Absolutely. And so I'm actually gonna go live on October 31st. Okay, Halloween night. It's actually a full moon that night. Okay, We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that full moon means. We're going to talk about astrology in general. We're going to talk about Vedic astrology. I'm also going to get into the chart of the United States. We're going to talk about some things coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about quite a
Y'all
few
not ready
things.
for that one.
He started sharing some stuff that he saw in these charts with me earlier on the phone. I was like, shut your mouth. I knew it was coming. But I definitely want to make sure, we want to make sure that people follow you. Make sure, listen, don't try this if you ain't studied it, okay? Don't mess around and be out here lying to folks. Well, I see in your moon that you about to come into a car and they not getting none of that. Don't be out here lying to people. Don't be trying to try. I'm a psychic.
Why Roxy over here dying right now? Because she know people who be doing this.
Listen, I know somebody that'll probably try to.
Proper lying.
Right, you ain't studied. You ain't even. When you just went and picked up a book. Oh, I can do this. No,
Right.
you cannot. This man literally studied this for 6.5 years, maybe 7 years, right?
Yeah, it's been, I've been
So this ain't something he just picked up yesterday. This man is 37 years old. He started when he was 30, 31. So this is something that he been really digging into. So you're not finna sit here and tell him you lying because, and you know, if you don't believe it, that's on you. Right? You believe in what you believe in. Just like I tell everybody. If you believe in Buddha, believe in Buddha. That's on you. Whoever you pray to them. You know what I mean? However you do your life. You know what I mean? But don't try to go out here and find these cards and books and try to figure out, let me see if I can find out what's going on in my family.
Well, it's a very hot, quote unquote, industry right now where people are searching for knowledge. And there's a lot of truth in, even in beginners and learning, right? You start to see things, you want to automatically, like, I want to share, I want to share. But sometimes we're like not prepared to share because we haven't done a lot of our own cleansing yet.
Yeah.
And we got to be careful when we share things that we're not ready to share.
That's why it's taken me this long to finally step out of the shadows, because I've been allowing myself to prepare the way that Spirit wanted me to, and now it's time to step out and let my light shine. So now it's time to share.
It's a different level of patience and peace that comes when you know who you are and why you're here.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't even know why you called me, because I'm like, I ain't gonna get into all this stuff. I was at home minding my business. You want to ask me about this? But I'm glad you asked me to be a part of this interview, man. I don't. Like I said,
No, he was like, Archie, I want Archie.
I appreciate.
I said, are you? And I said, are you sure? And he's like, yes.
When he sent
I
the
want
message, when they
Archie.
sent the message, I'm like, you do realize I haven't done this in a while. Like I asked, I'm like, you sure? He wanted you, so
You gotta, and I think a part of that too was like, because of our spiritual backgrounds, we can relate, we can bring in different perspectives, and a lot of people that are in the church have a really, really hard time with this.
yeah.
We weren't even allowed to meditate. We weren't allowed to meditate. What you meditating for?
Listen,
And I move by my intuition.
Hypnosis was a huge no-no.
To actually, I said my intuition was what told me. You came in my mind, and when my intuition shows me something, I
man,
know
I'm
how
like,
to
this dude just sit down and fake a chart. Like, okay, I see somebody black, short, with an ugly voice, gonna be a part of this. Nah, but again, man, I'm glad you asked me to come in and be a part of this and sit in with this, man, because I really like this, and I wish I had more time for us to do something so people can see it and actually hear you talk
We're
about
gonna
the
do
charts
this
a little
again.
bit more.
Oh, trust me, this is just the beginning.
Yeah. But this is actually good, man. Like I said, I've had an experience in the last couple of months, whereas I've witnessed somebody do a tarot reading live, and it wasn't demonic. I've witnessed somebody do, some other stuff live, and it's so more than it's just where people just using their resources, right? That's just like a scientist. He's gonna use his resources to come up with something. Yeah. It's either gonna be he gonna use math, he's gonna use something to get the right. Just like we live in now, people looking for now. So people looking for things, and they're looking and they're seeking and they trying to find.
I think the most important thing is people want clarity. There's been so much confusion, especially when it comes to spiritual matters, for such a long time. Even in this, even in anything that you study, right? I look at life as this. Y'all don't know nothing. We don't know nothing. You don't even know nothing. As much as you know, you don't know nothing.
I live by, I'm going to say this, and it's the last thing I'm going to say. I live by an ancient samurai belief. It's called Shoshin. And the Shoshin, they actually believe that here in the Western world, we believe if you actually advance to the level of black belt, that you've now, you've mastered your craft. Mm-hmm. The ancient samurai believe in the Shoshin. The Shoshin means the beginner's mind. Mm. That means, and what they believe is once you've made it to the level of black belt, everything prior to that was all just preparation.
Right.
Black belt is now where your journey truly begins.
Black belt is where your understanding
you haven't
is.
mastered anything yet. This is now the beginning of the journey. Everything leading up to that belt was just preparation. So it's always understanding that no matter how far you come, no matter how much knowledge or how much information you gain, always keeping the beginner's mind, understanding that there's another level to go.
Yeah. Listen. Make sure y'all, again, this is just some of the material that he had. We was gonna use it. We're out of time. We'll get into that the next time I talk to you again. Again, appreciate you for calling me in on this. Listen, I do hope everything as far as your health is changing. I hope you become 100%. Again, snatch back what's trying to be taken away from you, which is your life. Be there for your children and your wife. Yeah. It's so different to say now.
I love you.
Your wife, anyway.
She's so pretty. Look.
I love her.
Let me tell you something. They've been on the journey together. Because I think she was there when he went to the hospital. She was there by his bedside. First of all, they weren't even together. She was just there as a friend.
And
I'm here for you, boo boo.
You had mentioned. You had asked me, about how if I had used anything to come to to meet up with her or anything like that. Actually, what's crazy is I was doing a trip coming back around from Michigan, and I got to about Texas, and she popped in my head, and I was actually listening to a tarot card reading in my truck on YouTube. Okay, and the reading actually only caught my attention because it said Capricorn and it said something Phoenix. Okay. Now I met all of you guys, and I met my wife at in Phoenix at Poetic Soul. Yeah. So I hit the tarot card reading and started listening, and this woman says, now mind you, I'm on my way back home to California, but I'm about 2 states away from Arizona, so I got to go through Arizona first. And this woman says, Capricorn, it's time to go back home. It's time to go back home and rise like the phoenix. It's time to go back home. And she tried to say it again, say rise like the phoenix, and she slipped up and said, it's time to go back home to Phoenix. And then she said, I mean rise like, and I'm like, wait, and I kid you not, before I clicked on that video, this woman had just popped in my head again. And so that's what made me actually call her. I called her again and ended up meeting up with her in Arizona before I got back home to California.
When you went to the hospital, were you still living here at the time?
No.
Just moved.
Because
you was working at the wine. You was working at the wine place, right? Man, I should have came give me some wine at the time. Missed everything. Anyway,
it's over. It's like we gotta go. Come on, we gotta wrap it up, fellas.
Again, thank y'all for checking us out, man. We'll be back. He gonna come back with some more of this. Again, I'm normally not doing this. Like today is my Sabbath. Yeah. So, but anyway, so much going on in our lives. Again, shouts out to our sponsors. I Am the Bag. What is it?
House of Jane. Shout out to Trap Sauce. Checking trapsauce.com. You guys can get that here at the station for $8 or on the website. Hit them up, trapsauce.com.
Yep. And you can get a reading from me at iKnowAstrology.com.
There you go.
You can email me right now. I'm actually setting my site up for the 31st. So meet me on the 31st at Facebook, iKnow Astrology. If you need to email me, you can email me at Simmie at iKnowAstrology.com.
Yep. And
perfect.
I'll find out my time so I can get this reading.
Get it together, Archie.
As of right now, it is 11:10. I don't know what the stars are saying, but it's saying for me, I'm hungry. All right, listen.
Huge mega sale.
Listen, make sure y'all get a copy of this, man. Make sure y'all find him. Reach out to Roxy if you want some good tea. No, I'm not talking about the dirt tea, but I'm talking about the good
that's
tea.
it. No.
My baby
Not
got
the shade tea. All you doing
Really,
anyway.
really quick, y'all. We will be coming back with another special interview. It's going to be a little bit. Look, I already have a whole situation in my head that we're going to come back with something really amazing with my brother. So keep it locked right here, y'all. Support District Radio Network, My Radio Phoenix, My Radio Chicago, and support District Television.
Just find me on social media. I'm out.